Hello and welcome to the DBB Newsroom. I'm English news host Nora. Joining me today is Dissent, an artist from Myanmar and the winner of the 2026 Fazlov Harvard Prize for Creative Dissent. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me here. It's an honor, actually.
First off, congratulations on this award.
Thank you. It means a lot especially as a son of political prisoners, and especially when our country have more than 30,000 those who are being arbitrarily detained. So I would say it's a really great moment for advocacies of political prisoners and the family members.
You stepped onto the stage at the Oslo Freedom Forum wearing a prison uniform. What message did you want to send to Myanmar by doing this?
I don't really want to send any particular message to Myanmar because we're already fully aware of what is actually going on in our own country. But the only thing is what we can say to the world. And all the Myanmar people have been saying whatever thing they can for like the last 5 years since February 1st, 2021. But we didn't receive any kind of proper accountability, any kind of proper concrete actions that Myanmar people are like to see from the world. So what I have been trying to tell is not to our own country, but to the world itself.
When you wore that uniform, were you speaking more as a son, as an artist, or as a Myanmar citizen?
Basically, I think it is very tricky to slice any kind of identity that we have because we basically hold multiple identity. But I'm not just representing myself. I'm not just representing my country, but I rather would like to represent a son of or a child of political prisoners or manifestation of political prisoners through my body while I'm wearing the uniform. So, because right now global political prisoners issue is a global phenomenon, and which have been existing for generation to generations, which is why I have the obligations and an honor to mention about political prisoners from Hong Kong, political prisoners from Iran, and those from China itself. So, which is why that it is really important to stress about how we can fit into the global trends of fighting against the authoritarian regimes and dictatorships.
You are carrying this message on a global stage, but your family is inside Myanmar. Are you able to communicate with them?
With my father, no. Since February 1st, 2021, I couldn't communicate with my father. And obviously, I get out of the country in October when I try to reach out to any kind of entities, embassies, or even ICRC, you name it. Like initially, I was actually rejected by ICRC when trying to register my father as a prisoner on around July 2021. This is the moment that basically wake me up, that give me the thought that I cannot no longer be in Myanmar. And there are many other political prisoners, family members like myself, who don't know what to do. So with that thought, and one, there's nobody stressing about political prisoner issues and a global stage, I decided to come out. So I would say that this is the reason I managed to, this is the whole reason that I cannot talk to my father for 5 years, which is the very reason I get the country to deliver the message that we have more than 30,000 political prisoners in Burma. And it is important that, and they all are facing unprecedented level of oppressions. We are even in that stage that we have to be happy that our family members in the prisons. That means that they are still alive, and it is such kind of extreme level of atrocity that we face. And if they're in prisons, we're happy because that means that they survived torture in the interrogation center. And that is very absurd and very illogical, but that's the way that our country is. So what I want to say to my dad is like, yes, it's been 5 years. I am just doing what you taught me to do, and we cannot be free unless all of us are free.
You mentioned in your acceptance speech that your family home was destroyed by an airstrike. Can you tell us what happened and what that home meant to you?
I grew up there. It is where I grew up. I was born and raised in Burma, and I didn't have any kind of like particular privilege or opportunities. Even speaking English, I learned it by watching movies. And even watching movie is a privilege because we didn't have electricity when I grew up. So that is the very place where I started to see the world through my father's library. But that little home that we have and the very library itself, all our family albums, is being destroyed by airstrikes. And my mother was so lucky that she was decided to live in that house before, but I basically, uh, warned her not to do that, which is the only reason she's alive. And even then, I was not that sad because we thought that our town is liberated already. But sadly, due to China's unprecedented interventions, is being control. I mean, now the military have the control over the very towns. So it is a very, very sad feeling, even though you can sacrifice something, and then you have that hope that even the region is liberated, but not, because um, the the China who always claim that the non-interference is important at the UN level and the global stage is basically interfering to in Myanmar as a new Tibet, uh, you know, at the unprecedented and excessive level. So I would say our revolutionary forces and democratic forces did whatever they could, but I feel so sad that our country already become like a Tibet.
You also mentioned that your grandmother had passed away. I'm sorry to hear this, but how are you coping while living in exile?
Um, Coping exile. I mean, it's been several several years that even being in Burma, like since the first day, since my father being abducted, um, I have to accept, that that can happen anytime, including my father, including my mother. So, and it is not even a special thing because the whole Myanmar as a country is facing this. We all have to consider that we can get killed anytime, and so not being able to say goodbye to our loved ones is just a very thing that we just have to accept to survive, to keep fighting for the democratic like future of Myanmar. So personal level, of course, it is such a sad thing. I mean, I try not to think about it, uh, because we started to go into the rabbit holes of all the things that we lost, um, the loss is immense, which is the reason that I try not to think about it and just keep going and just keep going and support our youths and Generation Z to get the place that we all want.
So you are turning private pain into a public testimony. Is that healing for you, or is it another burden?
It is actually, I was just a depressed artist, like before 2021, I'm just a curator. We just trying to promote the inclusivity by showing more blue-collar, grassroots-level artists in the art scenes. I never wanted to do this. I never wanted to do. I mean, there shouldn't be a need to advocate for Myanmar. There shouldn't be a need to like talk about political prisoner issue. Even though when I educate people as a lecturer, I also educate about conflict transformation, peace educations. But as a citizens, we should have that burden. But being a Myanmar citizen, meaning that you're born with that burden, and we keep holding it. It is also because of all the generation before you basically hold the burden, and so we have this obligation. And so what I'm trying to do, I'm not sure whether it is healing for me personal level, but what we try to do as a Myanmar Peace Museum is three things. First is we basically collect evidence of atrocities. And the second thing is connect our struggles with struggles for democracy with those of like struggles at the international level, which is why that we've been oppressed. We've been facing transnational repressions in Thailand when we try to hold this exhibition called Constellation of Complexity to visualize the global machinery of authoritarian solidarity, and where China embassy tried to shut down the exhibitions, but thanks to our partners in Thailand, the exhibition is still going on, but they have to accept the fact that just talking about Tibet, Uyghur, or Hong Kong is not acceptable for China at all, and they have to take out the visuals of even the visuals or the elements of Tibet's identity, including His Holiness Dalai Lama's image, or the Uyghurs' cultures, and the Hong Kong artist names. Tibetan artist names are also censored, and also Uyghur artist names are censored. So because of this, it was widely reported at the global level. So this is the second thing that we do. The third thing is we basically, after 2021, there's no more proper platforms for Myanmar creatives, because all the most of the foreign cultural workers just like flee from Burma, and they have to they just no longer work on Burma at all. So we basically try to fill the gap with by giving a platform to showcase the documentary works that all our or any other artistic expressions by Myanmar creatives, because all those are coming directly straight from the front line when the conflicts are still ongoing. The bombs are area bombardments are happening like every few minutes. So we try to showcase and in the right places. So this is the three things that we do. I'm not really sure, like at the personal level, I try not to think about it, but we just have to do what we got to do.
As you have mentioned, your 2025 exhibition in Bangkok connecting the struggles of Myanmar, Iran, Russia, Syria, Tibet, and Xinjiang. It was ultimately censored by the Chinese and Thai authorities. Did that shock you?
Actually, it doesn't, because we have been like planning this exhibition. Take like 5 years of planning. Actually, I mean conceptually, yes, it took around 5 years, because I've been helped by these communities of like dissidents and exiles when I try to get out of the country. It is not like the powerful government or whatsoever would try to help me. It is an individual, the artist, researcher, activist in solidarity. So I met, especially the Hong Kongers are playing a very integral role. So after when I come back to Thailand in 2023, I wanted to, give something back, because I also want to show the fact that we as people from Myanmar are not just trying to get the international help or assistance. It is we want to show that it is a two-way street, that we would like to contribute back. and also why they should be like, how to, open their eyes by connecting the dots between our struggles and the international, struggles for against oppressions. I was back in Thailand trying to continue this exhibitions while doing several risk assessments. But so for us, we kind of like understand we've been like, for Myanmar people, we've been like risking, everything to do the advocacy. So it's not much of a problem. We already have it like expected. But I think it is very shocking to our hosts, our partners, and also the Thai public itself, because they have not seen these kind of very invasive, invasive interference of the sovereignty of Thailand before. And it is a defining moment that everybody clearly see and transparently see what kind of influence that China have on many countries in Asia, and especially a country like Thailand. So we were not shocked, but we immediately have to leave because we were still Myanmar passport holders. So yes, but we were extremely lucky that they didn't got us.
You mentioned the Myanmar Peace Museum. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, so I basically mentioned about what we try to do at three things: evidence collections, connecting Myanmar struggle to the global struggles, and the dot in is giving a platform. So Myanmar Peace Museum, born out of our, my time as a peace educator, and we always like think about how our atrocities, different waves of atrocity happen in our country, never actually being documented or never been actually like educated to the public for the atrocity prevention, or to get out of this loop of like violence. So as my colleague, one of my close colleague just mentioned about a peace museum in Cambodia, and that really, even the concept of itself is really inspired me. Like since like 15 years ago. So because of that, after 2021, when I tried to get out of the country, my partner, my wife, and myself, we basically started to think that what we're trying to achieve is more than a curator or an artist. What we're trying to achieve is as a museum level. So which is why that we started to take the role of a museum level with three focus, as I mentioned before. So right now we don't really have any kind of physical place, of course, but we also take inspiration from Taiwan's like 228 Museum, which is also a human rights museum. And in the past, it used to be a prison for political prisoners. So at one point, we want to take the ownership, like reclaim all these colonial era like prisons in Myanmar, Burma. One the day that we can claim it back, to restructure it itself into a museum, so that we can cut all these colonial bad heritage, decolonizing it, and utilizing it as a human rights museum. So that is the dreams and the missions that we envision as Myanmar Peace Museum founders.
You choose to go by side redacted, using a literal black block to shield your identity. Do you feel this actually gives you more freedom?
Not at all. Actually, it's not at all. But I mean, everybody know that Sai is not a name, But this is something I have to like. It takes time for me to like accept. As a Myanmar person, as someone who grew up in Nasho, I didn't have any kind of like privilege to have any kind of scholarships or to have any kind of like privileged education programs or whatsoever. So just to become an artist and curator, and while being a peace educator in Myanmar, it take especially as a person whose close friend doesn't even know that his dad is chief ministers since 2015. It take really like precarious perseverance to get this far. But I did it with my full name, my full legal name, and but since 2021, the more I do things with my own legal name, meaning that I bring more danger to my family. So the name is calculated and engineered. So that's the best thing I could do. So of course, it doesn't give you any kind of safety, anything. But it is a compromise between trying to keep my family safe and trying to keep my own identity as a Myanmar citizens who is trying to advocate for democracy.
How do you balance the need to stay anonymous and being public enough to organize global exhibitions and accept international awards?
Since I get out of the country in end of 2021, nobody actually helped me because I have to start with a new identity. And I never even though I was involved in different movement inside Myanmar, but I could never show my face. So after getting out, risking my life several times, nobody actually helped me, especially this unknown person, because I withhold my full identity, and even then I didn't have much help from especially people that I used to work with. And I mean, very few try to help, but if you're Myanmar, have to deal with your own risks, and and there are many struggles that you're already trying to go through as a Myanmar citizens. So even the foreign entity, cultural institutions or whatsoever, they reluctant to help me because I'm an entirely new person with a new identity. So I have never shown my face like this, by choice, for 3 years. Even when I have an opportunity to be in talk to entities like Time magazines or Al Jazeera's documentary, I didn't give them the consent to show my face because I never wanted to show my face. But the only reason that I had started to have to show my face is in 2023. In 2024, I have the chance to do the congressional briefing in U.S. talking about atrocities happening in Myanmar. And during that time, I can no longer wear a mask, so I just have to show my my full face, my bare face, and talk about it. So then I come back to Thailand, and I think that since I already started to show my face, I just have to keep doing it. And at the same time, the complaint that I submit to UN Working Group for arbitrary detention, it got the reply from Myanmar Military Hunters Office in Geneva in around 2025 February. Yeah. So meaning that I'm already exposed as an only child of my family. So that means I'm already too exposed. And what's not helping is the Bangkok exhibitions, our constellation of complicity being targeted by China embassies. And we kind of understand, I mean, right now, as different stakeholders, different people getting arrested by China every day, I think people can see the magnitude of how far China can go. So which is a reason that I started to come, show my face and, claim everything I did for the last 5 years, which I didn't do before.
You were given political asylum in the UK. Has the nature of your creative dissent changed, being so far from your homeland?
It's always been the same. The reason I have to seek asylum is I was in UK in 2021. I never tried to seek asylum. I wasn't. I was in France or in US and in Norway before like 2026 or 2025. Never seek asylum because I want to hold on to my Myanmar identity and trying to advocate as much as I can, which is really difficult. Which is really, really difficult. But finally, I have no other choice. China embassy is after us. So nothing had changed. The direction that we are going is way more like concrete. For 5 years, I lived without having a stable place. I just live with a luggage. We have 20 kg of things. We just move around to different country, just living in 20 kg things and go to different place like an house person. But finally now I have a base, and it is not my choice. So the direction that we can go is much more stronger. For example, like early this year, we were having like a testimony from Beyond projects that we collaborated with staff member Francis and Burma VJ about like evidence like collections and displaying our archive. So Myanmar Peace Museum play as a curatorial entity. So we exhibited like the mobile exhibitions in Oslo, inviting the parliamentarians, led by the local Myanmar like leaders in Oslo. The same exhibition which we did like last year in London as well. And it is a very important movement because we never have this kind of proper memorializations for people who got killed. And which is why we named this like project with all the leaders as like testimony from beyond, as if like all the Myanmar people who got killed are trying to provide the testimony through the afterlife. So this is a very defining moment that like many of people, many international audience started to see that we have many other genocides, ethnic cleansings, and atrocities, not just happen to one ethnic groups or two ethnic groups. It is happening at the whole country level. So we will be doing much of the movement. So we've been gonna keep going further in the same directions as always.
Václav Havel famously wrote about the power of the powerless. For those still inside Myanmar fighting military rule, how do you make them not feel forgotten?
I use my own presence as a platform. Whatever thing I try to say, whatever thing I try to talk about the story of my family, I always try to connect to the wider audience. So there's even one time that I was told that by former political prisoners that surprisingly he told me that you shouldn't walk on political prisoner issue because you have never been in prison. And that kind of mentality shocked me. And we still have so many gatekeepers in our own Myanmar community as well. The different waves of exiles, different wave of, and I'm just someone who don't know any kind of exile politics. And I'm just someone who get out of the country to talk about these whole stories, which can be reflected in my personal level of like advocacy, which I try to tell these stories in the intersection of human rights, peace buildings, and also art and culture. So in whichever platform that I have, I've been telling it. I have not taken a rest since every day. I mean, how can somebody can take a rest when their loved one is like, in the prisons. You don't even know whether they're alive or dead. We cannot have phone calls. We cannot even exchange letters like properly. So with that thought alone, whenever I think, that thought basically like, sit on my head like 24/7. And it's not just my father, it's just more than 30,000 arbitrarily detained, Myanmar people who just want to have their country free. And with that thought alone, I don't think there's no way that I can just, forget about that.
So for my last question, what would it take for you to drop the redacted portion of your name and live a public life as a Myanmar artist?
I don't know. I would say that that part is gone. That ship has sailed. Because I can't even look at my former works that I did before post 2021. Sometimes you cannot read a book reverse, in reverse. And there's a chapter that I somehow struggle to open again. I don't know till when I can just relive as my full identity itself. But until the political prisoners are free wholeheartedly, I don't think that I can go back to my former self. And not just political prisoner, right? Like one, how can you just like live your life fully when area bombardments is happening like every minute in Myanmar? Like there's that amount of atrocities, the amount of like nation buildings that we have to do after the transition period, like it is really immense. So living fully and like of my life and living fully with my identity, I don't think it is attainable in this lifetime. maybe in a Buddhist way, maybe next life. But that's because it's not depend on us. It's basically due to the amount of atrocity that Myanmar military have committed, and how much we have to attempt to recover that. There's no way to heal it. There's no way to heal for the wound that we have suffered for generation. But this wave is the most brutal in the history. But we can never heal, but we have to try our best to recover.
Thank you very much for your time today and sharing the story.
Thank you so much for having this order. Thank you so much for DBP for doing amazing work. Thank you.
Thank you.